Hi there, Terry here from DotPointz. Today we're going to talk about 8 tips to help you get ready for your first day in a new job. So tip number 1, and I know that the way life goes, this isn't always possible, but do your very best the night before you start a new job to get a good night's sleep, 8 hours minimum, so that you wake up, you feel refreshed, and you're ready to face a new day in a new job, and you can make a really great impression. You're going to be bombarded, as you know, most everyone started a new job. You're going to be bombarded with names, faces, details, information about the company, about your role, about expectations, about all these things, and you want to be at your best. And I can't emphasize enough that sleep is a really important part of that. And so get a good night's sleep. It's that simple, and you will be so grateful that you did when you face this onslaught of a first day news and nerves and people and all those things. The second thing that I would recommend is that you get an idea of the dress code before you start your first day, and that you dress slightly above that. And the reason I say that is it's always easy to take a jacket off, for example, but if you walk in on your first day and you haven't quite hit the mark right, then it's really awkward, you feel uncomfortable. Now I suppose I'm talking more to women here, because it's a lot harder, I believe, for a woman. I mean, with men, you either wear a suit or you're wearing smart casual, or you're wearing, that's about it really. But with women, are we going to wear a dress suit? Are we going to wear a shirt with a collar or no collar? Are we going to wear jewelry? Are we going to wear a skirt? Are we... Girls, you get me, right? So just dress slightly above. It's more of a problem if you're below the dress code and you don't hit that mark right. So make sure you do that. The next thing I would say is be really careful about your choice of cologne or perfume, and in fact I would recommend you don't wear any. People, especially in enclosed offices, if you're sharing with others, or even in an open plan, a strong cologne or perfume can really offend others. A lot of people these days have allergies, sensitivities, and so you really don't want to do that on your first day. And I suggest you just cut the cologne, you know, unless you've got some sort of body odor problem, but cut it, because you don't want to leave a room and have your cologne still be there. Personally, I have a really sensitive nose. I've had to ask a couple of colleagues not to wear florals really strong if they sit near me. It's, you know, it's offensive, unfortunately, if a person can't breathe because of your cologne. So it's a simple thing. Just don't wear it on that day, or wear something very, very, very mild. Believe me, you'll make a stronger impression without it than you will with it. The next thing I would suggest is that you arrive early, yes, but don't arrive too early. It's really annoying, I have to say. It's really annoying when you arrive too early, because somebody is preparing to meet you on your first day. And remember, if you've been asked to arrive at 9 o'clock, whoever's there to meet you has been there, I don't know, since 8 o'clock, trying to do a few things on their own plate before you arrive, because they're going to induct you. So you arriving at 8:30 for a 9 o'clock start is not helpful, and I would suggest that even arriving at 8:45 for a 9 o'clock start is still not helpful. People need their time to prep, and you'll only be left in reception or downstairs or whatever the case may be until they're ready, and you put them under a bit of pressure. So make sure that you are early, and I would suggest 5 minutes early is sufficient. Really it is. You show that yes, you can be early and even early on time, but you're considerate of not infringing upon the time of the people who are there to greet you. The next thing I would recommend on day 1 is you're going to meet a whole bunch of people. So what I suggest you do is, when you're introduced to somebody, rather than be the quiet mouse and just say hi, which is what 99% of people I observe do on their first day. Say, hello, what is it that you do that might relate to my current role? And it actually helps on a number of ways. It helps start discussion. So they might say, actually, my role has very little to do with your role, but it's lovely to meet you anyway. In which case, you know, and you start to position people in terms of who you need to deal with a lot. Or they might say, well, I deliver this part of the project, which is upline from the part of the project that you're working on. And then you know that your ability to make deadlines is dependent upon this person who's earlier on in the project with you. So it's really helpful information, and it helps you imprint that information as you're in that sort of flurry of people and faces on day one. Helps you imprint that information. So remember that question, hi, what is it that you do that might relate to my role? And then get that conversation started. The next thing I would say about day one is just a warning. It's human behaviour. We all do it. I've done it. I'm not perfect at this, but you'll notice in a large office in particular that people don't tend to say hello if they haven't been formally introduced to you. So people can just smile and walk right past you, and they feel awkward because no one's introduced you and they feel like somebody should. So just know they're not rude, they're just feeling awkward. And so what you can do is, if it's a face that you've not seen that day, just say, hi, my name is Terry, I've started today, what's your name? And then it just opens up the conversation. So just understand that people don't mean to be rude, they just feel awkward when no one has introduced the two of you. So you've got to make your way through those introductions sometimes yourself, and it shows really good proactivity if you do it. The next thing I would suggest is that you make really good use of your first meeting with your manager, and you're likely to have that on day one. And by that I mean ask lots of questions, get really clear on what his or her priorities are for you in week 1, week 2, month 1, and even up to 6 weeks if needed, depending on your type of role. It's that one-on-one time. It sets you up for the first few weeks. Ask lots of questions, take lots of notes. Make sure on that day one that you have a pen and a notepad and just go for it and write notes. And so you want to get really clear on what your manager's priorities are, and even come to that a little bit like you prepared for the job interview. Come to that meeting with questions about their management style and how they like to best relate to their direct reports, and how do they like reports to be submitted to them, what's their preferred method of communication. So these are all things that you can think of to prepare for that very first meeting with your manager, which is so important, because yes, you've got that job, but you're making lots of first impressions on day one, and the one that you make on the person you directly report to is incredibly important. So be prepared for it. And the last thing I would suggest is, on your first day, don't be the shy, retiring type. Smile at people, look them right in the eye, and be really genuine that you're happy to be there, that you're happy to have this particular job, and that you're happy to know them. These people, people in general find it hard to let a new person in until they warm to them. Make that really easy for them by just being really genuine, open, smile a lot, and ask people about them. You've heard that in a lot of settings, and it's the same in the workplace. If you ask questions about them and their role and their enjoyment of the role, then you start conversations with people. People love talking about themselves. We all do. And so when you are meeting and establishing those early relationships, just smile on day one and mean it. Hope you've enjoyed this particular vignette, and I hope it helps you to be well in the workplace today, especially if it's your first day at work.